I do want to just, officially welcome Michael Gendler, co-founder of ultraspeaking.com. He's going to help us today tackle our executive presence. So, how to speak with conviction. I'm so excited for this. This is such an incredible life skill to have. I've encouraged a lot of our team to also join us. I'm so happy to see some new faces, some people we know, because this is going to be a really awesome session. And I'll just go over a few logistics before we get started. This is a very interactive workshop that typically works best when we can see each other. So go ahead and turn your camera on if it's not already. And then since we do have a lot of content and interactive activities to go over, we may not get to answer all your questions during our time here today, but go ahead and add them in the chat because Jess is going to be monitoring that for us today. And if we don't get to your question live, we're definitely going to follow up with you. So don't worry about that. And also just, I want to encourage everyone to join that community, not only because it's a place to connect with other professionals, but also because very soon we're going to be giving out opportunities to win swag bucks, which is new. And you can sort of use that towards our new swag store, which we just stood up like this week. It's very cool. These are just like a couple items like shirts and cups and things with the brand on it. It's very cool. But you will only have the opportunity to get swag bucks if you're in the community. So make sure to click that link in the chat to join and start contributing. And with that said, it is my absolute pleasure to introduce our spotlight speaker, Michael Gendler, co-founder of Ultraspeaking. I'll give you a little intro, Michael. If you don't know him, he is a public speaking coach, freestyle rapper, overall person who just prefers improvisation over over preparation. This is me trying not to use my notes. I learned this skill from Michael, but it's good. We're good. Michael has helped professionals all over the world learn how to stop over prepping for their videos, their meetings, presentations, and adopt this easier, more effective way to communicate on the fly. His expertise has been called upon by companies such as Netflix, Amazon, Google, and he's even coached YouTube content creators on their camera confidence. He's passionate about effective communication, so much so that he opened his own communication school, Ultraspeaking. And Ultraspeaking uses games, online courses to help people overcome nervousness and become truly confident and skilled at speaking. So again, I'm so excited for this workshop. And with that said, Michael, the floor is all yours.
Thanks so much. Thank you, Shannon. Thanks, Jess. Hey, everyone. My name is Michael. Excited to be here. Get those cameras on. If you want to get value out of today, you definitely want to have your face on screen because the whole point of any speaking workshop is to practice some speaking. So we always say at Ultraspeaking, if you want to get better at the skill, you got to do the skill. So for those of you that want to get in some reps today, get your cameras on. For those of you that have your cameras on, they're like, oh man, I don't want to get any reps today. Don't worry, everything's volunteer based. I won't put you in the spotlight or anything like that. But it's great to see so many familiar faces. Really excited to have you here. And if it's your first time, welcome. Today's gonna be a lot of fun. We're gonna improvise it together, which means we're gonna create a workshop that's relevant to you. And we're gonna do it on the topic of executive presence, which I think is the most interesting topic in all of speaking because it's the most mysterious to me. What does it mean to have executive presence? That's what I want to find out. And by the end of the workshop, we're going to see a couple of things. Number one, we're going to see people speaking improve in front of our eyes. That's what's cool about today. So you're going to see volunteers do certain exercises, and then by the end of their reps, you'll see progress. And we're going to figure out, okay, if someone can make progress in the span of 5-10 minutes, what does that mean? What can we all do in order to tap into that improvement on the fly? The second thing you're going to see is executive presence kind of demystified. You're going to see what it actually is, how does it look like on different people, and what are some of the common ingredients that we can walk away with today. So everything is going to be game-based. We're going to do some on-the-spot coaching. It's going to be live. And I think it's going to be a great time. So I'm excited that you're here, and we're going to get started in just a minute. But I want to get a sense of what are we talking about when we say executive presence? Like, why did you come here? Aside from it's Halloween and we're We're all looking for scary things to do. Why did you join executive presence workshops? Like, what does that mean to you? I want to kick it off with Ben, and then I want to pass it around for a couple of people. Like, if you think of that term, or you think of the people in your life that have executive presence, can you break it down for me? What does it mean to you, Ben?
To me, executive presence is someone um, that has the ability to make decisions and you know be steadfast and firm in those decisions and confident, but someone that you could kind of go to for advice as well. Um, they kind of have a good idea of what's going on and can really point you in your way.
Interesting. So you're describing a kind of person, maybe in the executive level. When you think about like a person speaking and you go, oh yeah, they have it. They have the executive presence. And you think of somebody else speaking and you go, yeah, they don't have it. What's the difference to you? What is it?
I guess it'd be more like confidence and knowledge, you know, confident that they know what they're speaking about and they
Uh,
know their not just subject matter, but are confident in their decisions and just
okay.
really, yeah,
Yeah.
confidence usually what I think.
That's the word that seems to be the common thread for you. So there's a confidence in what they're saying, in their decisions. You said steadfast as well, which is a related term. I saw in the chat, Mary said somebody that's calm. There's a degree of calmness to this person, which I think is nice because the opposite of that is somebody that is maybe uncalm, anxious, jittery, sort of lacking a certain groundedness. Great. Umang, what about you? What else hasn't been said that when you think about executive presence comes to mind?
Somebody just said that presence. I said I agree with calm and confidence, Michael, where no matter what might be happening around you, the energy that you bring is just that around everybody's calming and assuring. Assuring is the word I'm looking at.
Okay, cool. So people get a sense of security, a sense of everything is okay around you.
Yeah.
Who has a different, not a different definition, but something that hasn't been said yet? What we've really heard is like calm and confidence said in different ways. Is there anything else?
Maybe I can volunteer. Maybe it's about establishing one in the corporate social hierarchy, right? So sometimes when you're talking to a person with executive presence, people may feel anxious around them, right? Because they feel like they need to speed up when what they're saying, and they gotta make sure they get their attention. So
Oh,
it could be also the opposite of calmness as well.
oh, interesting. Am I understanding this correctly? You're saying sometimes a person with executive presence can make other people feel anxious, like if you have executive presence, you have this importance, time is valuable to you, and so in comparison I might feel like I don't measure up, I need to get the information across fast, and there's just a general nervousness created in the audience.
Exactly. Yeah, like people might feel like they need to get their point across really quickly, and then multiple people are vying for that person's attention at the same time. So there's a
That's
bit.
interesting. So that would be a crazy workshop if that's what we worked on, right? Like how to make other people feel super nervous around you. But then can we just, before we jump in, can we identify what, if that's the case, because we can picture that sort of person who has the importance. What you're describing is there's a sense of hierarchical importance to this person. But then what quality do they have that gives people not the sense of assurance that Umang was talking about, but quite the opposite? They have some quality in them that actually makes people a little bit scared. Does anyone have a sense of why what the quality is?
A word that keeps coming to my mind is influence.
Okay,
Even
tell me
to
more.
answer your question, it also
Yeah.
comes to mind influence. If this person has so much influence, that might make me nervous. Or, oh, if I say the wrong thing, they have influence over how they're receiving me and things like that.
Interesting. This is fascinating because when we try to develop our own executive presence, we get to pick and choose the ingredient set that we put in. And so many of us might feel disappointed if we end up becoming the person that we thought we wanted to be, but only to realize that nobody actually likes being around us, or they're all scared. However, if we try to cultivate maybe these qualities of compassion and safety and making everybody else feel good, we might lack in the authority and gravitas and the importance with which we want to come across, the influence, as Shannon is saying. So today we're going to try and cultivate different ingredients, and especially the ingredients that will help balance out your specific executive presence. So as we ask for volunteers, we'll workshop different variables. Maybe it's more gravitas or more authority. Maybe it's more confidence, or it could be more calm. It could be something else. Does humor have a role?
I think so.
Yeah. I guess it all depends on what your definition is. But my definition of executive presence, as we jump into this workshop, is, well, first of all, I don't believe it exists. I believe it's actually not something that somebody has. It's something that we project onto a person, which is kind of interesting. So it's not that they have executive presence, it's that to us, there's something about them that we feel they have. But that something, the thing that I would strive for, the compass for me, of course, I'd want more authority and I'd want to be taken more seriously and I want people to feel like I have influence. Of course, all those things are important, but to me, they're the consequence of something, and that something is a general ease with everything. That's why I think the executive is that has the most presence is the one that's most comfortable in the room. And they might come across as confident, but really they're just comfortable. And so if we try to put on an ingredient set, like let me try to be more assertive, but we don't actually have comfort with that, then perhaps it might not be genuine. So what we're looking for is a genuine ease in all situations, an ease to express yourself, an ease to assert yourself, an ease to influence when needed, an ease to speak up, an ease to create space, and everything in between. And we're going to play around with that. We're going to see what really are these ingredients. And I think the question that I'm curious about is who wants to workshop their speaking? Who wants to practice a little bit and see, with some coaching, can we draw out more ingredients in you, whether that's more confidence or more influence or more gravitas? Let's get a couple of volunteers and we'll play around and see what we can learn from different games. Okay, we have Owen. Anybody else as we create a list? Okay, Alyssa, fantastic. Great. Okay, we have a good start. And then as we see, oh, David, excellent. Cool, so we got some volunteers to kick us off. Owen, tell me about yourself. What inspired you to raise your hand?
I thought it'd be fun. I thought it'd be a little scary. Yeah. I'm an engineer. I work at an energy company, work in the innovation group. So trying to develop something that sounds like executive presence to me.
Great. Perfect. And if you had to guess, what would be your missing ingredient, or not so much that it's missing, but you'd want to cultivate more of?
Oh, great question. Because my answer to your earlier question about what is executive presence was something like insight, in that I see executives that don't get bogged down in superfluous details or side conversations, like they're driving through to what is important for the greater team.
Nice.
So that's what came to mind for me.
So staying high level, not getting stuck in the weeds.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, let's do an experiment. Let's establish your baseline. So everyone, what Owen's gonna do is he's gonna speak to us for about a minute. Let me put a minute timer on the screen here. And let me know when you can see my screen. Cool. And Owen, for that 1 minute, what I want to hear from you is I want you to advocate for something that you feel is important enough that we may want to consider it. So for example, you could advocate for the importance of going on a walk as the first thing of every day, the importance of getting outside before you start your workday. It could be something else. It could be the importance of wearing blue light blockers, or it could be whatever comes to mind. But for a minute, can you practice this insight-based communication where you believe something and you want to communicate the importance of that to us? And we'll establish this baseline and then make subtle changes in the next reps. Sound good?
Okay. Yeah, for
Cool.
sure.
So tell us something that you think is important to you.
Okay, something that is important to me is geothermal energy. It's what I work on. I actually work at an oil and gas company, but I am furthering the idea within the company that we should produce more than oil and gas, that we should produce geothermal energy. So instead of producing oil and gas from the ground, it's producing heat. And geothermal energy is great because it is low carbon. It uses energy that is free. It's just sitting down there. We don't have to import uranium from Russia. We don't have to rely on other countries. And it's really kind of a great equalizer in that there is heat beneath the feet of all of us around the world. And for my company specifically, it's a way for us to participate in the energy transition using the skills that we have, like drilling and reservoir engineering.
Oh, nice. Okay, great. Yeah, I really went for the heart of what's important to the planet too. Cool. So how did that feel as you were speaking?
Not too bad. I think I'm used to pitching it to like people who work in energy or people who work in oil and gas, and
Yeah.
and I think I missed a little bit, like making it really relevant to say everyone in this room.
Okay. Well, there's an easy way to maybe fix that, which is what if you adopted the problem solution framework? This is kind of an easy one, but what if you spent the majority of your time talking about the problem before pitching your solution instead of vice versa?
Right.
So give that a try and just see what that might inspire.
Okay. So the problem that I see is one of inflation and energy independence. Of course, I think we all notice how expensive life is now, and a huge component of that is energy. Where I live in Canada, we're an energy exporter, but we import all of our refined fuels like gasoline and diesel, and so there is this great thing called geothermal heat that exists, comes from the Earth's core. It's under all of us. And the reason why I'm really excited to work on it is that it can provide this low carbon, low cost energy to people around the world.
Good, good. So what did you notice in your thinking as you switched the order around?
I mean, focusing on the problem, obviously, it really changed what I came up with as a solution, what I talked about as the solution.
Oh, nice. Okay. Yeah. Let's get there's something missing. There's something missing in this ingredient set of speaking with conviction. Speaking in a way where what you're describing really matters to you and to us. Do you feel a little bit of that?
Yeah, you know what? That's actually feedback I already get. So I'm not at all surprised to hear it, is that like, hey, I can speak dispassionately. I'm an engineer. I can give all the facts and gain a lot of trust that way. But in terms of, does he actually really want this? Does he have high conviction about this? Not so much.
Can anyone relate to what Owen is saying? This idea, yeah. David, could you speak to it a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, I also struggle with having a monotone voice, or not showing enough emotion or excitement when I try to get my point across. So I totally get that. Like sometimes I feel like I'm seeing something clever, but then it just doesn't come across the way I want it to, because I did not put enough emphasis on how I'm speaking.
Ah, interesting. So you said a really interesting thing. You said monotone voice. We talked about this a little bit in the last workshop, but really monotone. Let me stop sharing my screen. I don't know if either of you are monotone voice people, but the idea is that monotone really just means one tone, one energy, one way of speaking. What we want is variety, but not just for the sake of variety, not because like we want some high notes and some low notes. What we want is energy. Energy, like the energy of I care about this. And that energy can manifest in different ways. So Owen, how would you feel if we played around with your energy a little bit?
Let's do it.
We did this in the last workshop, and we're just going to revisit it for a quick second today, because it seems to come up a lot, which is energy is at the heart of speaking. And how this game works, it's called the conductor. The conductor is going to be in control of your energy as you do this next rep. And so a 5 is your normal speaking level. It's just, you don't have to change anything. You can just speak your natural conversational speaking. But a 10 has to feel different. It has to have some whatever it brings out of you. And a 9 can be lower than a 10, but you could still see that I'm putting heart into it. I'm putting my body into it, and then I can drop it down when it's a 6. And I can return to my normal level of speaking. But the important thing here is the conductor is always in control of your energy. I'm going to stop right here. And that's what's cool about this game, is that it's no longer about what you're saying. That will come, well, we won't pay so much attention to the content. All we're going to pay attention to is, are you willing to play this game from an energy perspective? And my suggestion is, whenever you see a number change, just try to meet it immediately, energetically. And that's all that matters here. Okay, do we want to see this for Owen? Is this interesting? Are we curious? Yeah? Okay, fantastic. So Owen, talk about this same concept, the problem of it, but play it in the conductor way. Here you go.
Okay, so the problem is that we need energy to survive. And without it, we are literally back in the Stone Age. I mean, our whole progression in civilization is entirely tied to our energy consumption. And the problem is that our traditional forms of energy production also produce a lot of carbon, a lot of pollution, and we're seeing the results in the world today. There is inflation, there is climate change, and it's actually a very urgent problem and that we have to deal with. And there happens to be this very exciting solution called geothermal energy, in that it's always on. It doesn't suffer from the intermittency of wind and solar power that can't be relied on when we need them most. When we need the most, like during a wind storm or a windless day in the winter where it's cold and we need energy. And that's what geothermal provides, is energy all the time.
Give it up for Owen, everybody. Bravo. Fantastic. Fantastic, Owen. Let's get some feedback as listeners. Howard, you were listening to that. What did you notice in your experience as a listener?
It seemed like the critical points were being emphasized, or that could be happening in a real speech.
Wow. So you even noticed that the content, the important parts of the content were being emphasized at the right time. Yeah, that's fascinating. What else? Lonnie, what did you notice?
When he was talking more powerfully, it made me want to like do the same thing and like listen more closely.
Yeah, so it really had it drew you in. It energetically like connected with you in some sense.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Did you have anything to add, Reka?
Same thing that she was saying. The energy makes you actually focus on the message as well, right?
That's so interesting. Yeah. Oh, and what is it? How does this land for you?
I'm super interested by the idea that like the higher energy drew people in and communicated the message, and also that like I guess subconsciously I drew out the more important parts when it was like cranked up to a 10.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
super cool.
So that idea is the $1 million idea here. Is that if we want to communicate the criticality of something, the importance of something, we can't lead with the mind in order for it to be conveyed well. It comes from the heart, it comes from the gut, it comes from the body, the energetic importance of something. So when the 10 hit and you got into the state of the 10, different content came out all of a sudden, which means that we have this tattoo at Ultraspeaking that says energy leads, emotions follow, and words fill in the blank. I'll say it again. Energy leads, emotions follow, and words fill in the blank. Which means that if we want to tackle this at the source, we can't focus on the word choice as much until we solve what matters most, which seems to be, yeah, the energy. Great job, Owen. That was really, really nice. How did the
Thank you so
10s
much.
feel for you? The 9s and the 10s. What did you notice in yourself as you were in those states?
I think there was like a little bit being outside my normal speaking range. There was like self-consciousness that came with it.
Nice.
But I for sure noticed what you just said was that like the energy led, and then the words just kind of filled in the gaps.
Yeah, that's perfect. That's how speaking should work. And it tends to work that way when we're excited about something and we're really angry and frustrated. You know, like my cat was waking me up this morning, knocking all of the stuff off my nightstand. Like when you're angry, you just like the words flow out of you. You know, we're not thinking about how do I construct this intellectually, my anger. It just flows. And the same for excitement and the same for enthusiasm. So that's good news, because then speaking returns to this flow-oriented process, which it naturally is. So this game is called Conductor. It's available on ultraspeaking.com. It's free. It's worth practicing. Because by the way, Ben, when you noticed Owen playing and he hits those 9s and 10s, what did they feel like to you in terms of like the numbers in reality? Did they feel like a 10 to you? Did they feel like a 9? Did they feel like an 8, like a 7? How did they feel to you? And a 10, by the way, is like the most energetic expression possible on each individual's human potential.
I would say that they did. I mean, I could definitely, and it went, like we were saying, it went really well with what was being said. It helped make a point at the specific point time in what it was talking about. Like, it was really important, and it helped emphasize it, and kind of really ebbed and flowed really well. So I thought it was very representative of the numbers.
Great. Fantastic. So that means that there's some resonance with when you're at that number, it felt right for that moment. From my vantage point, Owen, your 10 is more like a 7 or an 8, in the sense that when I heard it, it didn't blow me away like, whoa, this person is just like allowing their inner warrior to come out. It's like, no, this feels great. I'd love to see you more at that scale, which means that we want to calibrate our range a little bit and say, okay, maybe I should spend more time in what feels like it's out of my comfort zone, but it actually lands for people as being exactly where the sweet spot is.
Yeah, I've got it.
Really, really nice. Okay. David's sitting there the whole time going, okay, I brought this thing up. Am I going to be the one that's playing conductor next? And the answer is, would you like to?
I would, but I have a sleeping baby right next door. So
Oh, you do have a sleeping baby.
Upset.
Oh man. Okay.
We'll
well,
weasel my way out of that.
Gosh, that's okay. We support sleeping babies in this workshop. Is there anyone that wants to give this a try before we move on? What would conductor bring out of you? Okay, we'll come back to it. David, if you're down, we could still do an exercise together.
Great.
That'll keep our speaking energy consistent, but we can still have a little bit more conviction in our speaking. So what I'm going to do for you is I'm first going to give you a baseline, which means there's no rules, but same prompt, which is, what's something important that you think all of us may want to consider a little bit more? And it could be on a climate change level. It could be on like a feel 1% happier level, anything in between. And I'll set a timer for you in just a second, and we'll get your baseline going. Share my screen and cool. Ready?
Yeah.
Here we go.
I think it's very important for everyone to get exercise first thing in the morning before they start anything else. So I like to do this myself. I get up around 5 in the morning, go do my stretches, do a workout, extra stretches, get a whole bunch of water, and then start my day after. So that really sets the tone for a very positive day. You basically get the most difficult thing out of the way first thing in the morning before breakfast, and then that way I feel like I have a sense of accomplishment that I have gotten that done. So then the rest of the day is just a nice little bonus, right? Like a cherry on top of the cake. So I highly recommend everyone to do that, so you can just feel great, and it doesn't have to be 5, it can be at any time in the morning.
Perfect. Love it. Great. So that's your baseline. And I think for most people that would land as calm, personable, confident. So all the ingredients we're looking for. What I'm curious is, if I add one variable, does it change anything for us as listeners? So for you in the audience, as you now listen to the second rep, I'm curious if it'll change anything. What I want to do is I want to introduce this concept of importance prompts. So how this is going to work, David, is you're going to talk about maybe the same topic, exercise, and you're going to speak for the same time, which is about a minute. But then you're going to have these importance prompts, or these phrases, appear on your screen throughout your speech, such as, in fact, the entire world. Or it might say like, this is supremely important because, or this is critical. And your job is to incorporate these phrases as you speak into whatever you're saying. Make sense?
Yeah, makes sense.
Cool. Let's give that a go. And as listeners, let's pay attention. Does this change anything for us?
I highly recommend that everyone should start their day off with exercising first thing before breakfast. That way you can get the most difficult task out of the way before life gets to you. It is staggering to consider that, you know, we have an obesity epidemic in the country, and so many people feel unhealthy and unhappy because of that. So I believe that I don't understand how we let ourselves do this, while it is very easy to just take one simple step in the morning, even if it's a tiny step, to make our own lives better. So if you could only choose one thing, do a 5-minute walk first thing, do something easy that's doable, and you will just feel so much better and set the tone for the day. So this is supremely important, that you take care of yourself before you can take care of others.
Give it up for David. Yeah, that felt different. That brought out something different. Let me look, there's some things in the chat going on. That was so great. Jess is tripping out. I love it. What Jess are you noticing in this one?
It was like punctuating certain things. Like you can tell you really care about what you're talking about. And I just feel like when you kind of just put those extra phrases in, it really kind of made us perk up a little bit more. And they were nice little, I don't know, they felt like very subtle punctuation marks throughout, where I was like, my ears picked up again.
Yeah, it looks like Alyssa is saying what you're saying in another way. She says it injects more emotion, some of that 10 energy into the topic. So Jess, you're saying it punctuates it. It like emphasizes certain words. And what does that do, Alyssa, for you as a listener?
Oh, I think, yeah, it is more attention grabbing, and it's somehow more relatable as well. Like, you know, there is an obesity epidemic, and it is a shame, and I feel the same way about that. And so I think it gets me a little more emotionally invested as well, which then makes me more interested in kind of following along with what you're saying.
David, how is this landing?
Yeah, definitely agree with these points. I think I often bring like a 3 or 4 energy in my speech, which is kind of natural for me. But when you're doing that, it's hard to always, you know, keep people's attention while you're doing that. Like I have given a presentation and I had the CAO interrupt me and say, "Okay, well that's great. So let's keep moving." So and it was fine. They were happy with the results I was bringing, but they just thought, "Okay, well, this is kind of dry stuff. Let's just go to the next topic." So I think, yeah, things like this would help me improve.
Interesting. So are you down to do one more?
Sure.
So I'm going to ask you to talk about just a slightly different topic. Oh yeah, Shannon's saying it was interesting to hear the same speech, but the second one was much more engaging by just emphasizing a few points or including calls to action. Yeah, so it's interesting how this same topic, different speech, just from a few words that inspired new directions. What I want to see in this one, David, is I'm going to make the time a little bit longer. I'm going to add a 5th topic in here. So we're just going to extend everything. What I want to see in this one is even more emphasis in the almost the enunciation of the phrase. And what I'm really trying to say is like these phrases have emphasis built within them. So it's the degree to which you emphasize it. So like instead of like, and this matters a ton because, you say, and this matters a ton because. So it's how much heart are we putting into each one of these phrases. Cool?
Cool. And then same topic?
No, let's do something else. Maybe something around, so you have a young baby in your home. Now that that's your new life, what do you think is something you would wish to communicate the importance of? Or what's something you're realizing has become really important to you?
Yeah.
Here we go.
So I believe it's very important to spend quality time with your child. I have a newborn daughter, and it looks like she requires a lot of attention. And even if it doesn't seem like it, it's staggering to consider. So many people would just drop the child in front of the TV and not really give a lot of attention to the kid. So I think that's it is a game changer to sit down, disengage from your phone, disengage from everything else, and really have the eye contact, the close touch, and look. The truth is, it's not always easy. You might feel like you have all these notifications on your phone to get to, but at the end of the day, you just need to set it down and form that close bond. So I genuinely believe that my efforts for over the last 4 months have helped me form a really strong bond. So when I'm just walking around the house, I feel her eyes following me. So it astonishes me. It astonishes me when I see the look of joy in her face, just from being greeted in the mornings, as opposed to just having an indifferent reaction.
Give it up for David. Bravo. Really well done. Yeah. So who noticed a difference in this one? And if so, could you try to put it into words? What is it that is noticeable? And you can just unmute yourself. Yeah, Jess.
I felt like you were very much being intentional with the phrases that you were saying. You were much more trying to get the inflection, not so much like energy, but you were really trying to get inflection and like emotion behind those little points, which I felt I could connect with you more a little bit about, because it is a big deal to be a parent and it is a big deal to be in shape. So I felt it was great. And you are improving before our eyes.
His investment in the topic is very clear.
Yeah. Investment in the topic. I love how you said that. Investment in the topic. So if we bring it back to executive presence, and we use that phrase, investment in the topic, what's the relationship then? What is the relationship between executive presence and investment?
It's believing. It's believing what you speak about and letting others know you believe it and feel it.
Yeah.
In other words, your conviction, right?
Your conviction, right. So we're continuing to say the same thing, but it's nice to be able to bring it to life a little bit and see that, like, what it actually comes down to is it's quite, I mean, David, you tell me, like, what, if you forget everything you said and all the phrases you used and you just kind of remember the experience of the different ones, could you identify what you're doing differently in these last reps?
Yeah, I would say putting emotion behind the speech, right? So instead of just going through a checklist of do this because of XYZ, like I'm writing an essay or something, it's more about pointing out the emotion behind something. So I think that is probably more powerful.
He was in the moment.
As well. Yeah, I really like that too, because there's something about when we speak, especially when we're put on the spot, many of us have this mindset of, I need to get all my points across and I need to get to the end. Whereas what felt unique about this particular rep is it felt like you were really taking the care and the time to emphasize where you were at with your point. So the idea of, like, it's staggering to consider how people put their children in front of the TV at such a young age, like, that's where we're at. We're not trying to hurry and get to the next point or whatever. We're right there with you. And I think, Rekha, that's what I at least understood when you said he was more in the moment. Is like every word mattered more. Yeah, really, really nice. Very cool. Thanks, David. Thanks for volunteering. Very cool. Any questions so far? I'm just going to plug in my computer, but any questions?
I have a question for you, Michael.
Yeah, sure.
It's me, Jess. I'm just curious,
Hi,
like
Jess.
when you speak, how do you get yourself like in the mindset to be emotional? Because it's exhausting. Like, how do you, whether you're talking about your diet or your job or whatever, what tips do you have? Do you have any like things that you kind of meditate before? What do you do to get in the mindset?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, because it's like it's the hardest advice in the world to hear, oh, add more emotion to your speaking. It seems so obvious, like, oh, it worked for David, it must be true, but how do I do it? Especially if I'm going to be giving a data-driven presentation about, XYZ. So there must be something underneath the emotion. Emotion is the consequence. And we could say it's energy, okay? Energy leads, emotions follow. But it's even like, how do I just generate energy? There's something deeper. Does anyone have maybe it's a mindset, maybe it's a way of being, but does anyone have a sense of how do I do this?
So I can give an example. Not sure if
Yeah,
it's a
David.
perfect example, but I used to I had a lot of interviews before switching jobs in the past. I used to just have a spreadsheet with questions and answers that I kind of memorized for myself. So, and I had like terrible results, even though having tons of interviews. And then the last time I switched jobs, the only prep I did was listen to music that made me happy immediately before the interviews and nothing else. So I had like 3 songs that I would just play, get in a really good mood, and then go into the interview. And then I did like a much, much better job.
That's amazing.
So it
Yeah.
might be a crutch, but it worked for me.
I mean, I hear Tony Robbins jumps on a trampoline and like gets himself pumped up before going out on stage. Like every speaker that I know has a pre-game warm-up that you're describing of getting into a state. And that is really valuable. Like if you feel good, you'll speak better for sure. So that's really good. Anyone else? Well, it's a good question. My answer to that would be you got to care about what you're saying. And I know that sounds very simple, but if you believe that you need more staffing for this project, then a part of you has to feel angry if your manager says, sorry, we can't. A part of you has to feel a longing for this to happen. You have to feel driven to get the result that you want. If you say that, I think that we should all be running more. I think running is an important part for our improved mental health. You got to really care about this opportunity to share this idea. Running has had to have changed your life in some way, and you've got to really want to get this across. And most people, if they are finding themselves not having the conviction or the importance, it's because in the moment, they aren't feeling connected to the mission, to the ideal of what they're sharing. And in fact, that's a really interesting transition. I wasn't planning to go this way, but Alyssa, I'd like for, you mentioned you wanted to get some speaking in.
Sure.
Yeah, I'd like for you to play this same game where we'll give you a baseline. We'll talk about something important. And then we'll introduce more care into the conversation. So how do I care more about this topic? But maybe you'll nail it on the first rep and we'll have nothing to work on. So either way is perfect. But take something that you genuinely care about and try to bring that out of your speaking, and we'll see how it goes.
I dropped my 3-year-old off at school this morning, and it's Halloween. And in the parking lot, on our way in, we decided we were going to put on the costume. So he's a dinosaur, and it has a big tail. And when we walked in, like 6 kids came running over and were so excited to see my son's costume. And they were pulling on the tail, and he was doing his little wiggle dance and all of that. And it was so touching to me to see it. And it got me thinking, like, it's been kind of sitting with me all day. Like, how can I have more of that kind of just basic joy in my life? I think I kind of go through my day like, okay, what are we going to do for dinner tonight? Okay, like, is it bath night? Like, I feel like I've lost some of that, like looking for the little things, stopping to smell the roses, those kinds of activities in your day that bring you these little joys. Because just like the look on his face and all those other kids in their costumes, like making this core memory about this super fun experience for Halloween. It was just so touching and beautiful. And I miss some of that, I think, in my life.
Wow. Bravo. Give it up for Alyssa. That was really well done. Could somebody describe what it was like to listen to that? Maybe Owen.
I loved the story aspect of it, and the and tying it in, I guess, like the family part of it. Like, it was just so obvious how much um Alyssa cared about the story that she was telling. So it was a story and it drew me in.
Yeah. So it was a story and it drew you in, but you also said there was a family aspect to it. Like there was something about her connection to that story that made a difference. Yeah. And so interesting. I want to draw attention to something David said in the chat. He said, excellent pauses, emotion, and inflection. Alyssa, were you thinking about your pauses, emotion, and inflection?
No, definitely not. But I did have to like pause to catch my breath because my heart was racing so fast.
Oh, interesting. So
I felt like she was reliving it in her mind, and that's what made it much more in tune.
I love that you said that. Yeah, she was reliving the story, the moment in her mind. So what does that create? What does that cultivate if Alyssa's reliving it?
It's like she cares, and now I care. I need to know what's happening there.
Yeah, so there's a care for sure. And what else, Reka? You're onto something big here.
I mean, what that moment meant to her. What is it? What is the importance of that for her?
Yeah. So there's all these wonderful ingredients that came in, and we're trying to break it down. The first thing to note is that the emotion, the inflection, the pauses, none of that was conscious to Alyssa. She wasn't focused on that, which means that can't be the answer. That's the consequence of when you're locked in. So the question is, how do I get locked into my speaking? How do I get into a state where just like the right ingredients come out of me at the right time? So something about Alyssa got locked into a feeling or a state of being in which the words and the inflections happened naturally. And Reka hit it on the head. There was something about she relived this moment. She went back in time and she was so there with that memory that she became very present with her content, very connected to it. Alyssa, how did it feel to be speaking, aside from the heartbeat in the beginning? What was that experience like for you?
I think I was sort of reliving that moment, and for me that made it easier to talk about because I could just sort of kind of float back to that. Like I sort of blacked out. I didn't really see you guys. I didn't feel like I was talking to you. I just felt like I was, verbalizing my experience.
Yeah. I love that. I love that. So you went into the zone
Yeah.
as we call it. And that's what I want to figure out, is how do we get more into the zone in our speaking so that everything takes care of itself. So there's no improvements here. I don't have any ideas of, well, let's try this and this, because you nailed it. And what I'm curious about is one ingredient that you're introducing to us that I'd want to see Owen go again with, if you're down, Owen.
Sure.
Which is, Alyssa found a way to have a personal connection to the topic. So you were talking about you wish you had more of that simple joy in your life. But you didn't go theoretical. You didn't go, studies show that joy is one of the top 10 most important emotions to have. And I think it's critical to have joy in our lives. And maybe that's going on a walk. Maybe that, no, you dialed in on like, what does this mean to you? So, Owen, this is going to be a tough one, but you started off talking about like geothermal energy, right? How can you take this topic and make it more personal to you? Which means, how can you relate to it? What is a memory you've had either in connection to the problem or in connection to the solution, but why do you care about it so much for yourself as a human being? Can you give us a go on that angle and see if you could think of even a moment in time, a memory where you feel like that represents this connection to you, this caring. And let's just see what happens. Let's see if anything interesting arises. Here you go.
Okay, so I think I'll talk about like my journey at the company that I'm at and how I started working on geothermal. Was that I joined this company more than 10 years ago out of school, did engineering and
let me jump in. Let me give you a different prompt.
Yes.
Can you dive in with the words, I remember the moment when? Can you dive into one specific moment that you feel stands out to you out of that entire journey?
Yeah. Yeah, so I remember the moment when the drilling engineer that I'm working with told me that there was nothing that he would rather do in the world than drill this geothermal well that we're proposing. And the truth is that almost everyone who touches this project that I'm leading gets so excited to build something new, to work on the energy system of the future. It's super exciting and it's brand new and it could change the world, honestly, and disrupt what is happening in the world today. And that's what seems so exciting to me. That's what I get excited about, is that I'm kind of a shit disturber, and getting the opportunity to really, like tip the apple cart and work on something that will change the world and ultimately allow for cheaper energy independence for everyone across the world is what I get excited about when I'm talking about geothermal.
Well done, Owen. Really cool. Really, really cool. So in this one, you kept emphasizing what got you really excited, that this could change the world. Like that's language that that wasn't prompted on the screen. That just kind of came out of you naturally.
Right.
What changed for you? What was your focus inward?
I think it was really trying to connect with my own excitement. I started the story about what the drilling engineer told me and his excitement, and then that led me to my own and what like really is interesting about this project for me.
That's cool. So it seems like when we have to care about what we say, when we have to speak about something, what we're really trying to communicate is not the information, because a text message or an email can communicate the same information. We're trying to communicate how we feel about the information. This is a really important distinction, I think. Most people say, okay, my job is to communicate a message. Well, if that were the case, then every speaker would just go out there and say, live your dreams, pursue your passions. But the message by itself has no depth. It has no emotional connection. So everything a professional speaker does is thinks of the right stories, adds the right emotional narratives. It's like everything is to get not the message across, but to get us to feel the message ourselves so that we might actually consider it. And that's why injecting our own emotions, injecting how we feel about what we're saying is so important, because, and whenever you're delivering results, you're like, oh, this project, let's say you're giving a project update at your work. This project is on track. We completed 6 milestones. We have 2 milestones left. Like, so many project updates are delivered in this memo-like fashion where we're just giving details without anything. If I were to deliver a project update, I might say, we completed these 6 milestones, which, by the way, to me is amazing because we were understaffed this week. But, Jim and Jane worked overtime. And so I'm really happy about the team. I'm really proud of the team today. But we have these 2 that we didn't finish, which frankly, I'm not too worried about because it's going to get done. It's on track. I think it's okay. So just that subtle difference of like, I'm not just saying what we did, I'm saying, here's how I feel about it, because I want to help you figure out how you want to feel about it. And that helps create narrative, helps create dialogue. Yeah, very cool. Any questions so far? Anything interesting? I want to hear from Mitesh. Mitesh, I love that you have your video on. Thanks for that. What's coming up for you? What are you curious about as we have about 20 minutes left in this workshop?
I feel that I have some practice with public speaking skills and having an executive presence, but I think it depends on how my mood is for the day. Particularly, I don't feel that great today, which is why I haven't spoken up until now. And I think it also depends on whether or not I'm, I guess, enthusiastic about the topic.
Okay.
So,
yeah, for sure. All true things. How you feel impacts what you say.
Right.
Yeah, very cool. Do you want to go for a rep, or you have any interest?
No, thank you. Not today. I'm sorry.
No, you don't have to apologize. Just thought I'd extend the opportunity. What you brought up is really true for me. I notice I have 2 modes. I have a grounded mode where everything is great and everything is kind of like, I give good energy. And then I have an ungrounded mode where I'm a little bit more tense, a little bit more rushed, a little bit more anxious. And it totally comes out in how I speak, how I lead workshops. I don't know which one you're getting today. You might be getting the anxious one, who knows? But it's absolutely true. So David's idea of listening to music beforehand, getting into the right state before you have to give a presentation, it matters a lot. And I really like what you're saying, Mitesh, which is like, if I'm not feeling good, maybe the best choice is to actually skip and wait until the state is better, because energy leads and words fill in the blank. Very cool. We have about 15 minutes left, 20 minutes. Does anyone want to do a rep? Does anyone want to get some feedback on their speaking practice, any of the ingredients, or we could always end early? I'll give you a few seconds to think.
Michael, I have a question if we have a minute.
Yeah. We definitely do.
Do you think, I definitely all of your public speaking, tips, I think resonate really well with me. But I'm wondering if you can talk about like command presence or thinking specifically about like executive presence. One of the challenges that I have is how can I kind of command a little more attention, maybe, or I don't want to say respect, but that's kind of what I'm going for ultimately, in a room full of people who maybe are higher level or bigger egos or, that sort of situation. If there's something else that we can add to the mix for that.
Absolutely. You want to explore it together?
Sure.
It's the only way I know how. let's figure it out together. Yeah, so you're asking, how do I have more command? The word gravitas comes to mind.
Yeah.
That seems like a related word. So let's do another baseline. This time, see if you can, let's say you're not in the storytelling mode as much. And let's say you just have a minute to talk about, what you think we should all consider to be more important in our lives. What's one habit that you would advocate for? A habit that you feel is important or has played a role in your life and that we might consider as well. And I'll give you
without storytelling.
Well, I mean, you could talk about, I just mean, try not reliving a moment with this one.
Okay.
And that way we can isolate just the speaking itself. Cool, here we go.
I find that I think that everybody would probably benefit from a little bit earlier bedtime. And I say this because I know I have, and I think we should all consider it. It's easy for me at the end of the day to do a little doom scrolling, veg out on the couch, watch some TV with my husband, who I feel like I never get to see at this point. But when I go to bed earlier, I'm more likely to get up and exercise the next morning, which we all know is critical. I feel better the next day, and I think we could all benefit from that. I think we should all really consider maybe instead of watching that extra episode, despite Netflix just kind of starting it for you, cutting that off and going to bed early.
Nice. Okay, great. So that's a perfect baseline. So the first thing that I would ask you is, what tone do you think you're conveying? Like, how would people find you as they listen?
Sometimes I worry that it comes off a little juvenile. Okay. Go ahead.
Sorry. I was just going to say, if you can't use that word, if I don't understand the meaning of that word, how would you define it with using other words?
Yeah, simple, maybe quite simple, or even casual, perhaps.
Okay, casual. Yeah. All right. And there's nothing wrong with casualness. Casualness? Yeah. There's nothing wrong with that quality.
Right.
Aside from
the executive presence.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Like if you speak in a casual way the entire time, then I will hear what you're saying casually. Like, oh yeah, maybe bedtime. Casual, So what ingredient or how you must be able to then change something so that it's not 100% casual, but there are these moments where the tone shifts. Maybe the opposite is seriousness, for example. If you're serious about something, I want to know that, no, this is serious. And then you could return to casual if you'd like. But without figuring out exactly what it is. Can you give this one more try and see if, okay, if rep 1 was focused on being casual, what do you want rep 2 to focus on?
Being serious.
Being serious. Okay, let's try it. Which means really that, and let's keep the same topic, bedtimes, because I like that. I do think it's an important habit we should consider. But let's see a different interpretation, and maybe it'll have a difference, maybe it won't. Let's find out.
Okay. I can be sometimes a grumpy person, and I unfortunately, have been exposed to people that seem to be having kind of a rough day. And I think all of us can agree that sometimes we have a rough day. And I'm I'm finding for myself that the practice of going to bed early seems to help me be better the next day. And so, I'm advocating for this new initiative where we all go to bed early, because I think that it's going to help everyone in the long term, improve their moods, feel better, um, and ultimately do better, perform better, which is what we're all trying to do at the end of the day. It's going to help us get up in the morning and get our exercise in, and that's going to help set the tone for the rest of the day. So this is my push for everyone going to bed a little bit earlier.
Nice. How did that one feel for you?
Probably more serious. I used bigger words.
Okay.
I think.
But how does the experience of speaking feel?
More
What does that feel like
boring.
for you? More boring, okay. So
Or
there's
less emotional. Yeah.
There's something here. I think this is very relatable to a lot of people, which is like, how do I get across the gravitas about this topic? How do I get it taken seriously without it sucking the soul out of me? And it's just like so boring. There seems to be something in let's make one change. And the change is that rather than speaking being the baseline, let's make silence be the baseline. So only speak when you feel really inspired to say something. But let's have silence be the loudest note for this entire minute. Is this making sense?
Yeah.
Okay, let's try that.
I got a lot of sleep last night and I feel pretty good today. My son got a lot of sleep last night and he was in a great mood this morning. I could not have said the same thing yesterday. Oh, I'm kind of tired of hearing people say I'm tired every day as well, especially at work. Maybe we should all go to bed a little earlier. That's all I got.
Fantastic. Wow. Holy moly. Got chills all over my body.
Early bedtime.
Lonnie, can you tell me a little bit about what happened for you in this one?
I just got a strong feeling coming from her. So
Wow. You nailed it then, Alyssa. Lonnie got a strong feeling coming from you. And did you have that feeling in the first reps, Lonnie?
no.
Yeah, thanks for being honest. Everything changed in this rep. My God. What I want to know is, Alyssa, what changed for you internally as your experience of speaking? What was different?
I was less worried about filling the time. And so I could just kind of waited for something to kind of like literally sort of pop up that made sense, instead of worrying about filling in the gaps or making sure, everyone knew I was speaking by speaking.
Yeah. And what a difference it makes. Jessica says, sometimes filling the gaps, filling the time waters down the message. So this is what I noticed in your first reps. I think going to bed is supremely important because it's going to get everybody feeling better in the morning, and we're going to have a good mood, and then that could get us into good habits like waking up early. Versus sleep matters. So there's something different about saying a lot and saying just enough. And the shift happens when we make silence the baseline. And this might be the biggest shift of all. Because when we're put on the spot, when we're in a meeting, when the pressure is on, there's a literal rush. Alyssa said, my heart started beating super fast. It's natural. There's pressure, it's a spotlight, there's stakes. So that literal rush is the rush of speaking. And many of us rush through speaking as a natural response because we get swept away by the experience. The person that is able to ground themselves in the silence, in the ability to say, I'll speak when I have something to say, but I'm not just going to put words out because I feel like I need to. That person has a different mindset. And that mindset is really the foundational mindset of what we call gravitas or authority. Because, well, you tell me, Alyssa, what's the difference in mindset for you?
Oh, it's, you just focus on saying what's important and the rest doesn't really matter. So you don't even have to say it.
Yeah. I love it. Thanks for bringing this up. A really great job.
Thank you.
Well done. We just have a couple minutes left. We have some time for questions. We may end early as well. First of all, a big thank you to the participants for making today possible. That was huge. Without you, it would just be me doing these reps. And they'd all be perfect. There'd be no room for improvement, so we'd learn nothing. Kidding. No, this workshop depends on the volunteers, and it takes a lot of courage to do. It takes a lot of courage to be in front of a bunch of strangers. I mean, the community is super warm and supportive, but it takes a lot of courage to put yourself out there. So thank you. Thank you to Jess and to Shannon for putting this together, and to the whole team. Without them, it would just be me with no audience pretending that this is a workshop. But we actually made this happen. Thank you to the participants, but thank you to the attendees for being here, for being the audience. A speaker without an audience is just me in the shower rehearsing. Speaker needs the audience. It's the lifeblood of what creates this magical experience. So even those of you with the videos off, thanks for being a part of the chat.